Time for legs. My prediction,
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
Hey guys, Coach Dan here. That was my best, is it Clubber Lang from Rocky 3? Where he's making his prediction about what he's going to do to Rocky, and he goes, my prediction, but anyway. You get it. That was my best acting. Maybe acting was never my strong suit. Or maybe you got to practice that stuff a lot, and I'm just, not in it. Anyway, I'm not being rude. I'm getting my phone out here to go through the workout for today. So today marks, second week of the fat loss phase. Weight is trending down in the right direction. I feel hunger. I feel pretty good though overall. It's good to see those numbers go where they should, and I'll make a summary video on how that's going maybe this week or next week, so we can I can go through some particulars, some specifics, so you can kind of get an idea for yourself. Anyway, let's go through. So what we've had the last couple of weeks is a stiff-legged deadlift on the belt squat. That was real nice last week. Hamstrings got quite sore, so the stimulus I got for my hamstrings was really good. I felt them quite well, but on the overall, the body felt good, so we're happy with that. So belt squat, stiff-legged deadlift, that's number one. Number two, rear foot elevated Smith machine split squat. So that is kind of targeting towards the glutes. Show you how we make that nice and glutey. Leg press. Now, if you watched the lower body video of this one last week, you'll notice that I skipped that because my legs were so jacked up from the hack squat at the beginning of the week. But this week they're feeling good. So quads are good to go. So I can't make an excuse when I get out there that, oh, my quads are sore. We just got to get out there and do it, right? Actually, let me go back again. After the stiff-legged deadlift on the belt squat, I'm going to slot my calf raise on the belt squat in there so that I don't have to load up the weight on the belt squat and then go do my other stuff and then come back to the belt squat. Now, I've said things surrounding that like, oh, I don't want my calves to be tight, but it's probably not going to matter. So I'm going to do it to be efficient with my time. So I'm going to go belt squat RDL, calf raise on the belt squat, which I'll show you, and also then I'll go into the Smith machine split squat. Okay, now we're up to date. Then leg press, quad dominant leg press. That'll get the quads jacked up. I like that. I've been doing a heavy set and a couple of moderate sets in this workout, and we'll continue that on. And then we have the adduction machine at a moderate rep range, whereas early in the week I did it in a lower rep range. And then GHD sit-up. That is a really nice abdominal exercise. So that's going to be the workout for today. As far as this diet goes, this is, week 2, workout 5. We're kind of at the back end of this week. Pretty happy with how things are going. Weight is trending down as it should. Hunger is there, but generally how I feel is pretty good. So we're happy with that. So we continue on at the allotted calories. We continue on at the allotted steps and training plan until there is a need to change. So if progress plateaus or anything like that, there is some potential to kind of go, all right, what do I need to change to keep that budging forward? Or again, sometimes we just keep hafting. We just have to stick at things for a long enough time to see the results. So if you're in a fat loss phase and you do it really extremely and hunger is really severe and you feel like shit, it's really hard to sustain. So the weight loss might go like this, but then because you can't sustain it, it's back up like this. So we have to be able to sustain it over time and to get the best results. So if I can do half a kilo of body weight from now over the course of the next 7 weeks, I think it's going to be, that'll be like 3.5, 4 kilos, that'll be significant. If I do 2 kilos in 1 week, but then put on 1.5, but then do this, like it'll end up, well, who knows where it'll end up. So we've got to do it such that it's sustainable. All right, no more shit talk. Let's head to the belt squat machine to do our RDLs and calf raises. Let's get it. First up, we've got the belt squat RDL. So I've recently subbed this in maybe in the last few weeks. I like doing it on the belt squat because of the stability. So I've been doing a stiff-legged deadlift with a straight bar, standard free weights. It was fatiguing me big time. So I'm going to slot this in as my posterior chain hamstring dominant exercise. A nice stiff leg, just like with the stiff-legged deadlift, to make it a lot about the hamstring. So you'll take a bar like so, could be a longer bar, could be anything like that. When the weights get heavy, I'll use my straps to kind of strap on here, but for now should be okay. We've got a clip on the end. We'll clip it to, there's 3 notches on this particular belt squat. I'm going to the middle one, and then essentially you're going to line your feet up such that you are kind of where your notch is. So you're going to be balanced essentially. Now the thing about this is it's on a hinge, so it does kind of lever away from you, so you do have to find a sweet spot of where it feels balanced and okay. Back flat, hips high, hamstring stretch, come up, squeeze your butt. Stretch, squeeze your butt. So another thing about doing this on a belt squat like that is because of this lever, you can lift more weight than you can on a straight bar. So this essentially gives you an advantage, as if you're like, I'm not very good on tools and stuff like that, but if we were trying to use a spanner and this was the nut or bolt you're trying to take off or tighten or whatever, and I tried to use the spanner here, I don't get a lot of leverage, but I take it out here and I get a lot of leverage. That is this distance here. We have this long moment arm, which means we're better leveraged. Okay, and yeah, so that meaning we have to add a fair bit of weight, so I'll take the time to warm up and build up, and then we're on. What do they call it? All right, next up we're going rear foot elevated Smith machine split squat. So we've gone up until now, what do we do? Stiff-legged deadlift, that's it. I was going to do my calf raises on there, but another gym goer was lining up to use it, so I thought I'd have some good etiquette for once. So we're trying to make this now glutey, right? So that was hamstringy glutey. This is now glutey quaddy. You kind of see that some things cross over to other muscle groups, and I kind of track that enough to know that, yeah, this might not be a full set for quads, but a full set for glutes. So maybe it's half a set for this and a full set for this. There was a recent meta-analysis, which is a study of studies that was essentially used that, a fractional, what do they call that? The fractional sets. So something that is maybe not directly targeting something can kind of be the equivalent of doing like half a set for that muscle group. That's how I count it. So if something is more targeted towards this thing, but this thing also works, this is 1 set times, so an example of this, 1 set times glutes, half a set times quads. Leg press, for example, for today is 1 set times quads, half a set times glutes. That hamstring or that stiff-legged deadlift, 1 set times hamstrings, half a set times glutes. You get the picture. And then that's not perfect because, like, yeah, it's not a perfect measurement tool, but it is something to keep in mind. So Smith machine split squat, I like it for the stability purposes. I've already set up the roller or this could be a bench or whatever back here. When I go to place my front foot, it's going to be directly underneath this bar. And what that's going to mean, this is a somewhat hard concept to kind of gather. Basically what happens that if this weight is coming directly down, so force is coming directly down, depending on where your joints are in relation to that force, it will make it harder or easier. So let's say this is where my foot is, right? That would mean that this is where my knee is, and then the weight is coming directly down on top of that. But my hip and glute is back here. So what that means is we call this a moment arm. From the distance that the force is coming down to the joint that is having to extend is a moment arm. Now that distance therefore makes it harder to extend this joint. It requires more torque to extend that joint. So the muscles that have to extend that joint therefore have to work harder than these ones. So in short, doing it this way makes it easier on the quads and harder on the glutes because of that moment arm. All right, now with all that said, let's get through the techniques. So foot directly underneath the bar. Bar's going on the shoulders, but I'll place my back foot on the box first. Handles come forward. There's a slight lean into this. I essentially want to get my chest pretty much as close to my thigh as possible. And what that also is going to mean is that there's going to be maximal stretch through the glute, because the glute's job is hip extension and that's hip flexion. So that will stretch the glute out. And always when I'm spruiking is surrounding the training the muscle in a lengthened position. That's essentially lengthening the glute out as much as possible, but the knee is only getting to about 90 degrees, so the quad doesn't get as stretched out. All right, I feel like I've talked enough shit about this. Let's build up our weight and smash it out. All right, next up we have the leg press. Now, on my other lower body day of the week, I also do a leg press, but I bias that leg press variation towards the glutes, whereas this one's all quads all day. So, a quad leg press versus a glute leg press. I'll show you the difference in a second here. Now, I quite like this as far as stimulus goes. Last week, I missed out on doing this because my legs were really jacked up, or more specifically my quads, really jacked off from the, jacked sore from the earlier leg session in the week. So I actually skipped it altogether last week. So we're feeling good today as far as the quads go, so she's in. All right, so if we're talking leg press for quads versus glutes, what we want is we want more knee flexion. Hip flexion's kind of part and parcel of it, but a glute leg press will have your feet up high. And what will happen at the end of that is what you'll see is that there'll be lots of hip flexion. That's still not too bad, but you're essentially finishing the movement with your knees touching your chest, but not fully flexed at the knee. Now, what that means is you're getting full hip flexion, and the muscles that extend the hip are going to stretch out, so glutes. Now, when we want to make this quaddie, I go lower with my stance, toes out, and I look for a big chunk of knee flexion. The hip flexion's certainly there, but we want to get that knee flexion and the big stretch in my quads. Now, just like we spoke about with the split squat, your moment arm also changes here. If you think about where this where this weight is attached to my body, and as my knees flex, they end up something like up here or something. The weight is coming down here, and the knee joint is up here. This is the moment arm. Can you see that there? That is the moment arm. Now, if my feet went higher, that moment arm would be smaller, so it would be easier to extend the joint. And then the muscles that extend the joint wouldn't have to work as hard. So in short, we're making it harder on the quads, stretching them out more, and making it harder to extend the knee, which is the quad's job. All right, let's build her up. Don't fucking, if I get to the end of the set and you say to me you could have done more, I'll fucking punch you in the face. If I can do more, you make me do more. Don't let me bitch it. All right, next up we have the belt squat calf raise. So, for efficiency's sake, I'm going to put this directly after the stiff-legged deadlift that I did earlier, but due to availability and there was a member of the gym wanting to use this, so I thought I'd give it up because I am that kind of person. And now we've come back around. They've left their weights on here. I know from my log that I did this. When did I last use this? Belt squat calf raise, February 2025, so not too long ago. And I did 115 each side for 20. That's a good thing about logging so anally like I do. I know exactly where I've been and where my progress is. So efficiency-wise, if I go straight from the stiff-legged deadlift that had 125 today that I got for 10 on here, and then I do similar-ish weight on here for the calf raise, is quite efficient. All I have to do is bring it up, sort of a couple of sets for the calves to get them ready. Just today, I've come all the way back around after doing split squats, leg press, and now I'm back here just because, yeah, someone else wanted to use it. So we've got the belt, we've got a clip, we've got this handle, half the foot on the platform, half the foot off, just like most calf raises. We're up, stretch out at the bottom, raise up. That is it. Good. This one is good because just like doing this on a leg press, there's no spinal load, there's no bar on your back like doing the Smith machine. I have nothing against the Smith machine, but ultimately you end up putting a heavy bar on your shoulders or back, and that can be fatiguing, and that might sound pretty pussy of me, but it can be. So if I can get the same stimulus to my calves without that fatigue, in my mind that's a good thing. All right, I got a little bit extra weight to add here. Maybe I'll go 120 each side. Let's go. Okay, next up, lying hamstring curls. So this is to get a couple extra sets of hamstring volume here. We only do 2 sets, bada bing, bada boom. We've already had those stiff-legged deadlifts or RDLs on the belt squat, so a really good hamstring stimulus. I'm loving those, but to get a little bit of extra volume into the hamstrings without getting too much fatigue, I shift over to the lying hamstring curl. Now, some people will talk a little bit of shit about the lying hamstring curl versus the seated hamstring curl, as in because the seated hamstring curl has you in this position and we're already pre-stretched, the seated hamstring curl might be more effective for your hamstrings. And that makes sense theoretically and with some research. But again, it doesn't mean this is obsolete or making you no progress at all. It's just that potentially that is better. But I already do the seated version on another day, so I do this on this day for a bit of variation. And that makes sense to me. So not too much to the lying hamstring curl. I like to come in here, kind of walk myself out. I'll adjust my weight to something that's appropriate for me. Forearms on here, hold on nice and tight. Heels come to butt. Now that ankle pad, that should be on the back of my ankle. And where possible, as far down that way, so we do get as much of a stretch as possible, even though it's not got us in that seated hamstring position. So that will make it such that we get the best stretch we can from it. Some people might pad this up, again, to increase this angle, so it is a larger stretch, but that's a bit too much work for me at this stage. Now, what I'm going to do along with this, because the gym is quiet and the availability is set, I'm going to do my machine adduction, which is about 4 meters that way. So let's go check that out, check out our technique there. All right, machine adduction. As the name suggests, the goal here is to work the adductors, right, which are kind of through the groin and inner hip area, inner thigh area. Essentially, we'll take these pads all the way out to the side to drag the knees in to work those adductors. This machine is a dual machine. It can do adductor coming towards the body or abductor going away for more of the glutes. This one I do on 2 days. Earlier, lower body day of the week, I do at a heavier weight. This day of the week, I do at a more moderate or lighter weight. So this is 10 to 15, the other day's 5 to 10, and obviously you have to change the weight accordingly. Now, I could choose a different exercise selection, but I just cannot be asked getting out like a cable machine or a calf and dragging it in and doing that adductor motion on a cable machine. So this 2 days in different rep ranges will do to me. Some technique things about this one is like with this, everyone will have different flexibility. So you just get it out as wide as you can. You don't have to be, this is a second notch from the edge for me. You don't have to get it all out there necessarily. Just get it as wide as you can manage. And leaning back probably has some merit. Adductors being a hip flexor, so they'll help with that kind of movement or dragging the leg up. If we come into this position, we'll essentially pre-shorten the muscle. And again, talking about training muscles in lengthened positions, to lengthen and stretch out, it would make sense to lean back. And then essentially knees towards one another, adducting the leg, bada bing, bada boom. So these as a superset should be no dramas because the muscle groups shouldn't affect each other too much. So we're pretty happy with that. Go bam, it's like, yeah, you know, these are a meter by a meter. These, fucking, what do you call this shit? The rubber tile flooring, 1, 2, 3, 4th one. So here, I'll do a set over there, walk here, walk, and I've got 2 of each, so 4 total sets. Save us some time. All right, let's go. All right, next up and to finish off, how about that? We are almost done. We're going a GHD sit-up. Now, I would recommend this highly to anyone who, you know, needs a good ab exercise. So, again, we're on a GHD machine. We have there's many brands out there. What's this one? That's a brand that's gone under. But anyway, the GHD is good enough. So, essentially, what I'll do is I'm going to lay back over this pad here. And basically, if you think about your lower back or your lumbar curve, kind of goes in towards your belly button. And the job of our abs, or specifically our rectus abdominis, or the six-pack abs, is to take the bottom of your sternum and take it towards your pelvis. Now, which is essentially flexing that lumbar spine. Now, if I use this pad here, I can essentially stretch out my abs over the pad and then contract. Now, if you think about like a sit-up on the ground, it can still be quite good if you do it correctly, but also it can be a lot of hip flexion. I'm going to try and take a lot of the hip flexion out of it. So essentially just opening up this position, or if you can see better here, opening this up, closing this down to best target and isolate the abs. So this here is at the highest setting. If it's too low, kind of hard to get your foot in. Kind of get my feet in like such. Slide until my lower back is essentially lined up with this pad. And then we'll roll out over the pad and contract. Roll out and contract. And that's essentially it. So if you get a better view of this, essentially what we're trying to do is kind of open that up and close that down to contract the abs. And we're using that pad to kind of make it easy. What we don't want to do too much of is hip flexion. We want it to be spinal flexion and then that crunching motion, or sorry, spinal extension, lower spinal extension, lumbar spinal extension, and then flexion. Make sense? I'll give you a couple different angles so you can have a look at this. I personally like doing it on this versus the ground. Like you could do it on the ground and get this kind of curl up action to make it really abby, but I like this. Let's go through a further range of the motion. If we're on the ground, we'll run into the ground. So this is good. And after doing this, try it out. Abs feel like crampy, you can't stand up properly, if that's selling it to you. All right, let's get it. All right, that's a wrap on the workout, guys. A goodie, a toughie, but a goodie. Whew, nah, all in all, happy with that. We got some progress to make on some of that stuff, but that RDL on the what do you call that thing? The belt squat. Happy days with that. A couple other things we're pushing for. We keep trying to get that little bit better, even while we're not eating as much as we normally do. And that's, again, the goal. Retain the muscle, so you got to push for performance, and especially not, dip backwards, because that would be a potential indicator that you're not doing very well in your diet, and maybe that we're getting some muscle loss as well. So, you're doing a squat or a bench press or something and your weights are going down, that's usually a bad sign, because they probably should be going up as you learn and practice movements as well as a potential muscle mass loss there. All right, we head into our last day of the week tomorrow, our pull day, which should be good, like a reward for finishing this, right? As always, guys, if you could, it would be much appreciated if you hit the little subscribe up here, easy peasy. And if you want to watch another video, check out this one up here. And as always, it's about progress over perfection. Coach Dan, signing off.